What the f are you supposed to do when you get fired? You just take it? You just take it like a man? I'm unemployed. What am I supposed to do now? Do I go home and goon? Like, guys, what do I do? Like, actually, like, what do you do when you get fired? What's the next step? Do you look for, obviously you look for a job, but like, I got no income now. I spent my last $300 on a parking ticket. That was on me. I did let it sit a little bit. It was like a $30 parking ticket. It went up to $300. I really don't want to talk about it, but what am I supposed to do, guys? Oh my god. This, you know when they say like once you get to a point in adulthood where it's not enjoyable. I don't know who said adulthood was enjoyable. I'm just kind of, but like, what am my gas? I haven't got enough for gas, guys. Oh my god. What am I? Is this what I can't do this? I'm supposed to do this for the rest of my life? Like I can't. What am I supposed to do, guys? Please, someone put financial tips. Oh my god.
I don't think you can be helped because looks to me that you are self-sabotaging yourself. You just spent a 300 fine on a ticket. It was 30 and you ended up paying 300. So you can't be helped. You can't be saved.
The amount of people complaining that they're losing their jobs because they went on the internet and celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk and are now being reprimanded for their actions and losing their jobs is insane. If it ain't the consequences of your own actions, you just celebrated a man's death and you're upset you lost your job?
Not only did they fire me, they banned me permanently from the premises and escorted me out to my car. I wasn't even allowed to walk through the building myself. I was upstairs at one of the bars. I was working, and the big manager that you hardly ever see, like the manager that when you see him, you know there's a problem, comes and gets me. And he was like, pack up the money in your well. We're going to move you around a little bit. I'm like, okay, you know, they need me to cover a break at another bar or whatever. So anyways, we walk down the stairs and I'm like, okay, what bar are we going to? You know, so he walks straight into the office. So I follow him and he was like, what I mean by we're moving you around is you're not going to be working here anymore. And I'm like, can I ask why? He was like, because of some videos you posted. I said, may I ask what videos I posted? He said, you know what you posted. I said, okay. He's like, I'm going to need you to sign these termination letters. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need a copy of those. I was like, what is the exact reason for my termination? He was like, not following the code of conduct. I said, okay, fantastic. Austin is a red city, not a blue city. People think, oh, Austin's a little liberal. No, it's not. All of my little bitches were posting, R.I.P. Charlie Kirk, R.I.P. I feel so bad for his wife. When you take a stand, when you say R.I.P. to someone like that, you're saying to everyone else, I side with him. I believe what he believes. I'm so confused.
Oh man, she's out of a job.
Governor Abbott just announced that over 100 teachers in Texas who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, they are being fired. Their teaching certificate is being revoked by the state. And here's the thing, Texas doesn't issue licenses for teaching. We issue certificates. And anyone who celebrates death, left or right, should never, ever be allowed to be around children or young, vulnerable minds. So, and let's be clear about something. They're not being fired for their freedom of speech. They're being fired for their despicable, repulsive behavior. Because anyone that celebrates death, there is something mentally wrong with you. There is something wrong with your heart. So way to go.
As far as the freedom of speech goes, they are still protected. But a company can reprimand you for your actions, for your behavior, because you can say something, but when you look at it from your behavioral point of view, the moral point of view, some people may not want to associate with you. Even companies want to distance themselves with the employees of that nature. So it's I don't know, but let's check out. Looks like they are petitioning or they are trying to sue that they were not let go in a proper manner, or the grounds to which they were fired or being let go. I think they are challenging that. Let's check out this ABC news.
educators across the country are filing lawsuits alleging they were unlawfully fired for their comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. In the complaints obtained by ABC News, plaintiffs claim their First Amendment rights were violated because the comments were made on personal social media accounts. One teacher in Iowa says she was fired for comparing Kirk to a Nazi. The district confirmed the firing, saying the situation was, quote, handled in accordance with applicable federal and state law and board policy. The president of the American Federation of Teachers condemned the firing, saying, quote, no one should celebrate another person's murder, but using this tragedy to encourage doxing, censorship, and firing of people for their opinions, including educators' private opinions shared during their personal time, is wrong. Let's bring in ABC News legal contributor and Hofstra Law professor James Sample and Avery Harper for more. James, how do you expect these legal battles to play out, and what do you think judges need to consider here?
Diane, the First Amendment protects your right to free speech from the government. It does not protect your right to free speech from your boss, which is to say, if you work for a private company, an individual who works for a private company, a private employer, can usually discipline or fire that individual for anything that individual says, including outside of work, including even online. An individual who works for the government, like a public school or a university, does have some more speech protections, but even then, not everything is protected. These cases, particularly involving the individuals who are suing private employers, are unlikely to go anywhere. Those involving the individuals who are suing on behalf of or against suing the government because they were fired from a public employment context, they have a better chance. But even there, it is not absolute, and public employees can be disciplined if their speech disrupts the workplace or goes against established policies, especially during work hours or on work platforms.
I think it's good that he's been able to explain, because most of the people are thinking like, but how come I'm legally protected? My speech or whatever I say is protected by law, but how come this is happening, or this is not supposed to happen? Because I have a right to say what I want to say without any legal repercussions, or maybe threat for your job or opportunity of that nature. And he's clearly explained it. So if you say something and that goes against company policies or company moral code of conduct, yes, they're gonna fire you. And even if you sue them, it's not gonna go anywhere. I think it's good disqualify that. So let's watch some more.
What exactly is protected by the First Amendment, and how can where you work affect how it protects you?
The First Amendment protects individuals against the government infringing on their speech right. The First Amendment does not protect against private employers or private individuals who might infringe on speech rights. There are no First Amendment rights against private individuals. But in the instances where the First Amendment is protective, i.e. in context where an individual is working for the government, the First Amendment right is very protective. But that First Amendment right gets balanced against other interests. There's a case called Pickering v. Board of Education that produces a balancing test known as the Pickering balancing test. And that test, it's easy to articulate. It's very hard to apply in practice. That test basically balances, on the one hand, the government's interest in efficiency, in workplace harmony, satisfactory performance of the employee's duties, against the employee's First Amendment rights. There are contexts in which an employee has greater First Amendment rights based on context, based on numerous factors specific to the facts involved. So you can imagine a political science professor, for example, has more leeway if they discuss on a regular basis the feelings and thoughts about political leaders or political movements than, say, a professor of engineering at a university would, where they're making a one-off comment that is not necessarily germane to the material that they would normally cover.